Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Factorio. My name is CilantroGamer. I got a little bit of feedback on the first couple episodes that I recorded for this. My original intent was to just do a large record session and split it off into episodic content. But I decided, after all, that's actually not really what I wanted to do. I feel like the actual episodic stuff is much better if I get a nice concise intro and then an outro and welcome the viewer to the Let's Play every time. I think I feel better about that. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a little bit more care, a little bit more attention when I'm recording these episodes and let myself relax and get into it and not worry about anything else. So let's do that. Alright, so last couple episodes I was working on setting up some preliminary infrastructure for my base here. The surrounding area is quite populated with a lot of copper, a decent, well, an acceptable amount of iron, and frankly not very much coal. So there's a good chance I may need to migrate at some point to larger coal deposits and or set up some very long trains to move coal around to the area. So as I am limited on my coal amounts, I've been trying my best to make use of every piece of coal that I have and keep it absolutely optimized so I don't waste any material. I was also in the middle of setting up a copper mine, as I do require some copper ore. And that will be much more useful as time goes on. So I'll go ahead and get that set up here. Make some more power lines, as I will need those. And I think just in the interest of keeping this a little bit safer and quicker, I'm going to actually just place the copper on the coal line for now. These are all sort of temporary things. I told myself I wasn't going to do too many things that were temporary, but you know what? I just need to get started. I have to have some form of resource income before any of my grand design ideas will even be possible. So it just makes sense, even if it is temporary solutions to a more permanent problem, to just do that. So that's what we're going to do. And in the meantime, got some more trees to chop down. Try not to do too much deforestation. I do like how the trees look and such. I kind of wish you could actually, I don't know, like terraform the planet a little bit more. I mean, who knows? Maybe they have plans for that in the future to allow for further customizations along those lines. I mean, this game is, I believe, technically still classified as being in an alpha stage, which is pretty ridiculous, considering all the content that's already available. Pretty crazy. Oh, look at that. My poor pick is broken. My iron axe. So I'm going to go grab some iron here. I'm going to need quite a bit of this for my current projects. Well, pretty much every project ever will require a lot. So I will make another one of those. Let's get a couple more transport belts in here. I'd like to get lights up soon. I don't think I actually have access to light technology yet. I haven't, you know, I've complicated robotic arms and research laboratories and pumps, but I don't know how to make lights. Lights are just too hard. Either that or I myself, Cilantro, don't know how to make lights because I just didn't see it. One of those two is very likely. Love how intuitive the conveyor belt system is. Like once you get used to it, it's really nice, and it's pretty easy to pick up. I mean, it is pretty intuitive. The hardest part is learning how to manipulate the parts more than routing them. Because, sometimes you'll have one part on, like for example, if you look at the direction of my conveyors right now, this one is heading to the west, so it sort of has the coal on the right side, and so does this copper line, has it on the right side. So, sometimes figuring out how to get these things to match up properly can be pretty tough. In this case, it's pretty easy. All I need to do is just, force it in at the side, and then all of a sudden the line flows properly. So now I have copper on the way. So now I need to figure out exactly how I can get the copper smelted. I would kind of like, because I want a little bit more production here. So I think what I may end up doing is setting up on this side. Let's do that. So we're going to grab a couple stone furnaces. We're just going to mirror the process here. So I'll have another set of furnaces on this side. And hopefully... Okay, so it looks like it grabbed the copper first, which is kind of a problem. I'm hoping to make this into an iron smelter. I think as long as it keeps pulling from this end, it should be fine. I don't have smart inserter technology, which allows you to pull off a specific item only. It does look like that's also picked that up again, so I may have to come up with some other solution if I wanted to keep this as it is in order to get only coal, because it actually looks like both of these are having those very same problems. So, yeah, without these being willing to grab coal, that is a problem. Because what will happen, I think what's happening is, once they're fully loaded on coal, the arm still wants to work. And so the arm says, well, I don't care if this is a stone furnace, or an iron furnace rather. I want to pick up something and get it ready to be put in. So it ends up grabbing that material from the inserter. So that's okay. We'll see what we can do to come up with a better solution for that. I guess I could potentially... let's see here. I mean, I could potentially set up a second one of these, but I don't know. I almost think at this point I'm probably better off just switching off and having the copper be on a separate line. Or maybe even combine the copper with the iron line. It's very possible. I mean, if you played this game a lot, sometimes the logistics of everything, trying to make everything optimal, can be pretty tough. So, let's see here. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm going to be needing a ton of transport belts in the long term anyway, so we might as well just do it. It's not really a big deal. So I will actually move this over even just a little bit further here. And I'm going to... There we go. We're just going to hijack that. And so now I have a separate line for the coal. Oh, gonna need some more iron. Hopefully we've still been smelting iron. Yes, we have. Okay, good. And I think in the interest of continuing to smelt iron whilst I am dealing with other things, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And I need to have this empty for now. So there we go. So now we'll just double up our production here for a little while we get everything else done. So let's see here. Some more transport belts. And this is the coal line, I believe. Yes. Yes, it is the coal line. Grab all this coal here from this line. I'll just empty all this stuff for now. Whee! Okay. So, if the coal line's on the outside, we're going to need to get the technology to create some underground conveyor belts, which I think comes from, yeah, logistics. So this will probably be the first thing that I'll produce. Actually, to that end, can I make a lab yet? Okay, looks like I need some copper for a laboratory. So I'd like to start getting research done, even if I have to do it manually, especially for things like the ability to, you know, move a line under another one. That would just make things a heck of a lot easier if I could do that. Because in this case, I'm going to need to do that. The copper needs to go on the other side of the coal here, so if I don't get that done, it's not quite going to work. So, just retrieve all this stuff right here, and I'll just stop this line for now. The growing pains of trying to get a base started without investing too much into infrastructure. You got to find that right balance. Looks like I still need some more copper, so that's okay. Let's just get this set up here, as though I had everything done. So we're going to be pulling fuel from both of these and both of these. And I will acquire some more power lines. Boop, 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 boop. A few of those made. And of course some more inserters, as we will need those as well. And in the meantime, I can at least start manually smelting some copper and whatnot. And then like the area below, I will do the same thing here, where I have these dumping into a chest. And there we are. Okay, so for now, this will work. I can then cross the transport belt across here, of course, and be good. Once I do get a little bit more of the initial infrastructure done, I'm going to start really going around the surrounding area and planning out where I want my major sections of all the things to be set up. I also need to do a little bit more exploring around the outlying area to see if this is like an island or a continuation of a of a continent, or what kind of physical structure we're dealing with. Also need to monitor my power usage. Right now we're using about half of the maximum power that I have available. I can expand my power production if I need to, but for now it seems to be holding up quite nicely. Performance is working quite well, so no problems there. Let's go ahead and grab the copper we have here so I can finally make a laboratory. Hey, look at that, I can. Alright, so we're going to make a laboratory. And then I'm going to make some science. Just going to make these manually. Tons of science. I'll be feeding these in. Because step 1 is going to be to automate science packs level 1. My grand vision for this is to have a very wide open area with like a large amount of space devoted to different things, because one of the problems I've had in previous playthroughs of Factorio is I try to make things very space optimized, and it makes it very hard to make adjustments. And so what ends up happening, because I have to make adjustments to all the certain things, the land starts to get really, well, messed up. It makes it extremely tough to balance things out and to get things oriented exactly how they should be. So, let's see here. Need to have somewhere where this will actually have power, so I'll just throw it right here. That seems pretty reasonable. And take a look at all the different techs we have here really quickly. So automation would allow us to have assembly machines as well as long-handed inserters. Those will be really handy, so we'll want to get that pretty early. Logistics also allows us for the underground belts. Fast inserters, which are always handy, and splitters, definitely going to want those. Optics does give us the ability to make lamps, to light things up, so those of you, the viewers out there, aren't having to squint your eyes so much. Turrets will help as we start to pollute more and need some more defense. Stone walls, of course, the same thing. Steel processing is really handy, but not quite needed yet. It would be nice to have steel axes, but I don't really do a whole lot of mining as of right now, just manually, so that'll be a convenience for a later date. The tool belt is available, but it requires Science Pack 2s. This gives me a expanded hotbar, but not super important at this present time. And getting some advanced weaponry, again, will also be very useful at later dates, as well as the armor. So I think we're going to invest in infrastructure first. We'll probably get logistics to get all these beautiful things, and then automation to start auto-crafting different materials. So here we go. Time to fire up the research. And research needs science. Science is apparently converted. I mean, like, I'm not sure what happens. Do I just like grind up the materials and put red food coloring in it, and then I get a science pack? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm really trying to figure out exactly how this works. I mean, copper plate. Maybe it's the copper plate. Maybe I liquefy the iron gear wheel and dye it with the copper plate. Now I'm thirsty. Something like that. So I'm just going to let that science sit there and do its sciencing thing. Science requires a lot of triangles stacked on top of each other and electric signals pulsing through. Lab Canadian Neighbor. Must be the name of my laboratory, is the Canadian Neighbor. That sounds like something. A little inappropriate for YouTube. The Canadian Neighbor. We'll call it a dance move. I don't know what it is. Some sort of a Canadian dance, I guess, involving maple leaves and hockey. And sorry, that's bad of me. I apologize. Stereotypes are not funny except for when they are. So since I will be getting the new products here from logistics, which will allow me to finish this route, I might as well get that pre-set up. That way I can make sure that I have everything good to go as soon as the materials are available to be built. My cool underground belt. Do love those things. So I'm actually, I'm actually beyond keeping up with this iron, I think, or am I not? It's hard to tell if I need to up my iron production now that I have 2 of them. Yeah, it looks like I could use a little bit more iron production. Make sure I'm not tapping out the electric grid. No, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to run, you know, incredibly optimally. Right now, my iron needs are not that great. And I have a bunch of extra room here to get more iron if need be. So, I can do that. Looks like logistics is getting there as far as the production goes. It does take quite some time to get that. And actually, I'm going to need some extra science, I think. Yeah, we're going to need to make some more science because it does require 20 of them. Quite a few. I'm going to need some extra copper plates. So we'll take those. Science, science, science. Good enough. We'll use them all eventually. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and drop a few off. I'm going to go explore for a little bit. Even if it does cost me some time. Well, maybe I won't. Maybe I'm just going to get lost in the woods. Should have paid more attention when I was being taught survival skills in Boy Scouts. Yeah, we're gonna try to sneak our way through the forest and do a little bit more exploring, especially off to the east, to again get a full idea for what the shape of our humble abode is. Probably helps if I zoomed out a little bit to see some more. Still can't go over how much oil we have here. That's gonna be really nice, because the oil supplies, they're actually infinite. They start off where you can harvest, you know, 1.5 to 2 oil units per time unit, so quite a bit. But they start to languish after a while and eventually get to the point where it's just 0.1 per. So the quantity of your oil fields can be very important for long-term sustainability as far as those resources go. So far, not a whole lot of bugs, which is good. Looks like there's another copper deposit here. Plenty of copper and a bug nest. I gotta be very careful. I don't really have any defenses. I have a simple pistol, which will not do me too much good in the face of a buggy horde. Let's continue to look around here. Looks like there's some more bugs to the south. Another nest guarding some coal. Okay. They must really need their natural resources. It's very nice that this planet has them exposed on the surface, though. I just can't get over how generous this place is. I mean, they didn't have to do that. I kind of feel like I'm, you know, a bad party guest. You know, I show up and they have all this food laid out, and I'm like, oh man, thanks for laying all this food. And then I just eat all their cheese. And then all their other vegetables in their little vegetable chamber thing. You know what I mean? Something like that. Whatever a vegetable chamber is. You know what I'm talking about. Those little dishes that have different sub-dishes on them. People always put party snacks in and you know, pickles and all that kind of nonsense. Skip the pickles, but I'll eat your cheese. I don't have any problem with that. So I'm a bad user of those because I eat too much. And by eat too much, I mean use too many ores. A little bit more coal. Looks like we are getting sort of close to the edge of a island of some sort, or a peninsula. See if there's some more stuff over there. Well, some more copper. Definitely no shortage of that with a little bit of extra oil, but I don't know if there's any way to actually get over there without getting close. I do want to get back and continue sciencing. Looks like this does open up quite a bit more. Certainly no copper problems. Most definitely not. And there's some more coal guarded by some bugs. So we're going to swing back around to the west here and finish our exploration route. More iron? Is that more iron? Yeah. Ooh. That's what I like to see. This is good potential for our first major train route. Although it does look like there needs to be some deforestation taking place before that'll happen. That is a large deposit of iron, and we are going to need it. We're most definitely going to need it. No, let me through. Beep, beep. Good thing I have a flashlight. So I have a flashlight, but I can't actually make lights from my base. Video game logic, I guess. What can I say? Lot of room, though, which is exactly what I was hoping for. I would like to have just an excess of room to be able to compartmentalize everything that I want to make. This original peninsula I'm on here is likely going to be part of my final infrastructure, but the reality is that the more spread out I am, the more room I have. It makes it so much easier. And this is coming from somebody who really enjoys overly optimizing, you know, mining operations and all that sort of stuff. Micromanagement Simulator 2015. But at the end of the day, I also have to be practical. As I stated, if I decide to do things overly optimized, what will end up happening is as soon as I need to expand or alter any of those things in any way, it no longer becomes feasible because of my overindulgence in in very, very tightly compacted places. It's like, oh, I need to move this thing 1 square to the left, and now I have to rebuild the entire thing. Although robots do help with that later. The automation you can get from robots is quite nice. So since I have each of these on their own individual line, I think for the main strategy of this game, I'm going to have sort of buses, if you know what I mean. Not like vehicle buses, but sort of data buses. I think I'm using that right. Using that correctly. Can't use the word right correctly. I do write correctly. At least I think I do. So what I mean by that is I'm going to have a large smelter array that brings in heavy quantities of iron, ideally to the point where I can pull off of a double wide system and put them into a single or maybe even double line of iron belts going out to feed all of my crafting concerns. So, just as an example, ooh, research done. Yeah, we'll go for automation next. I need to auto-craft some stuff, so let's see if we still have some science in there. We sure do. So, I think I need 4 more sciences, and I will be able to get automation done, and that'll help me out. So, just as an example, pretend that I have a large smelter array here. You know, and that smelter array will line products on, we'll just say 2 conveyor belts just for now, okay? So 2 iron conveyor belts. So that is a large amount of iron being pushed out of this machine, because I want to make sure that these conveyors can actually feed any of the materials that are required for, you know, the production that I'm actually doing here. So so we'll have, you know, 2 iron and then 2 copper, and then 1 of stone, you know, assuming stone is required for certain things, or maybe even wider. And then as these buses, so to speak, are going along the length of my base, things will be pulled off of those to be used for crafting concerns. So as an example, let's see here. And there's a number of ways you can do this, actually. I've done a little bit of sciencing with this, and it's not that hard to pull belts off of different locations. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and work on a proof of concept for this really quickly, just to make sure that I have all the potential interactions that I'm going to need in order to do this. And while I'm waiting for these things to craft, I'm going to go deposit the science and grab some more iron and such. And actually, what I really need to do is set up the copper production to be automated like it was supposed to be. So put this underground conveyor there, and done. Nice. So now I'll be producing copper. Did I say copper? I meant to say copper. Cool. So there we are. So those will be doing their smelting thing while I sit here and do other sciencing. So assuming we have, say, 7 transport belts here, and I will actually produce this many, I want to find a easily replicatable way to pull whatever resources are required from each of these off to the side. I would also like to be able to potentially introduce other buses of subproducts. Like, just empirically, I know that copper cable is used in quite a few things, which is very important. I think I'm going to go ahead and research optics. I need some lights. Copper cable is a very, very important product in this game, and you use a lot of it for a lot of things. So having a buy station where I you know, move a bunch of copper to one side and then have it return copper cable on its own bus back into the main line would probably be a good thing to have here. So just assuming we have these lines going in a sequence here, and I'm going to need a lot more of these, of course. And I'm sure somebody's going to tell me, hey, you can just shift-click those things and makes it more quickly. And it's true, but it doesn't really bother me all that much. So assuming I need to pull to the left, let's find a way to actually do this where I can continue to keep the lines going without missing out on too much. So let's say I have to pull from the third and fourth lines. Let's find the best way to do that while maintaining a splitter relationship. So obviously I'm going to need to split off the third line. That's going to interfere with this line. If you don't know what these splitters do, I'll show you very quickly here. Any products that you place on the conveyors that are attached to a splitter will end up, I think it's Z to drop, yes it is, will end up being evenly distributed between both lines, maintaining the relationship of which side of a piece that they're actually pulling from, which is going to make it very, very important for me to make sure that when I'm pulling things off of these transport belts, that I'm doing so from both sides evenly, as to make sure that I am not you know, destabilizing this, and to make sure that all the products are flowing as quickly as possible. So just a side note there. But so if I want to split this off onto a separate line, I'm going to need to obviously actually split it, and then I'm going to need to curve to the left, and then I'm likely going to need to let's see here. I guess the easiest way would be to continue these lines with underground, oops, if I could do it correctly, with underground paths. And I think I'm actually going to do this in a way that is very symmetrical, or at least fairly symmetrical. And so by doing this, I have now created a split, and the through flow of everything else in this direction is maintained. You guys can kind of follow that. Let me just to show you here. Anything I put on any given place will go to the right place. So I'm just going to put, let me grab a full stack of coal here. I'm going to put 4 coal on each of these lines, and we'll see where they all end up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just messed that up. Let's try this again. I'll actually extend this out so you guys can see this a little bit better. So hopefully get an even better idea of what exactly I'm going for here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See if I can get this better this way here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so just to show, all 7 lines have received 4 inputs of items, and you can see up here that all of the lines except for the one that was split have 4. This one has 2 on each side, so that works pretty much correctly. The downside to this is that if I have to pull a bunch of different items off in the same spot, it will get a little harder to do that. So I may actually end up making these with a space in between to make sure that it's a little easier to split things off, because I think if I do that, I can do it in a much more compact way. In fact, I'm kind of curious. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here to see if I can split, we'll say 4 lines in a way that the 4 output lines will have the same distance in between them as the 4 input lines without overlapping anything. So what I mean by that is I have 4 lines like this, okay? And I would like to have 4 output lines from this very same area. There, I'll start right-clicking. I know you guy in the comments who's like, why do you just click everything with the left mouse button? That's why, because I just feel like being lazy. So the idea is that I would like to see if I can come up with a design that allows me to have 4 outputs like this, separated from 4 inputs without having to do anything that's like overly complicated, I guess. So first obvious solution is this one here on the left, which can very clearly and quickly be split like that. Pretty straightforward there. Gets a little bit more complex here because I don't believe I can just put an underground belt here. But I do like to use science, so let's see what happens if I do this. I'm curious. Okay. So it does place the product on there, but I believe only on the close side. So I would have to have 2 of those in a situation like that for that to actually work. Okay, so I think I'm going to avoid doing that. So I think instead, to maintain the flow between these sorts of areas, it would likely be best if I just simply put an underground belt right here. That should not interfere with any other future design decisions. Should be a very easy, nice, concise way to split material off as needed, and should otherwise, you know, just be perfectly acceptable. And so let's try the same thing in the other 2 lines just to make sure this is a repeatable pattern. We'll be in good shape. So it looks like I need some sciencing materials. Okay, I only need 10, so I'll go ahead and make 10 of those by hand. I think by the time I get all this stuff set up, I won't even really need to only make Science 1s. I'll probably be on Science 1s and Science 2s. So I'm going to have to ramp up my production and my scaling quite a bit. So let's see here. We have 2 more splitters. So again, just making sure that we have the right layout here. Let's get the splitters in line. There and there. And let's see here. Okay, so this is a little bit of a problem, because as you can see, I have the need or desire to push this underground again, but I can't actually do that. So I mean, I guess in this case I would have to run it underground this way. I'm still spatially compact, but it doesn't quite retain the pattern that I was hoping. And unfortunately, I can't just have these underground tracks go indefinitely. They do have a limit on how far they can go. I think it's like 4 squares. In fact, I'll just find out. So 1 in between, 2 in between, 3 in between, 4 in between, and then that's the end of it. So if I do this, it's going to have to be in sort of this fashion, I think. Which, again, it works. It does make it slightly more confusing as to where everything is going, but when I'm doing these splits, it'll very clearly, you know, be showing me where exactly all of these materials and products are actually going. So, and I don't think I can get away with doing a single underground path for every individual line if need be either. As an example, if I'm trying to turn this way, I'm going to need some more underground belts. Going to need an underground belt, I guess, here. And probably another one here. Which, this would work. Whoop, if I had it facing the correct way. This would work, but this does get a little bit more complicated as the amount of lines from each bus goes, increases. But I think if I just do a sort of grid pattern, I should be okay. If I have every other one of these jump up from below. So in this case, if I have, because each of these will have a underground belt on it, but if I can alternate those underground belts to make sure that there's only one of them going in any given direction, it should work out much better. Also, I forgot you can hold Alt or hit Alt and reveal all the things that things are making. This will make it a little easier for you guys to follow at home. So I believe this will actually work. Let's see here. So as you can see, what I'm meaning by this is that each of these places where something intersects, if it's at this level of density, there will end up being a pair of underground belts crossing each other. It just depends on which direction they're actually coming from. So in this case, this line has to go here. Alright, you guys see what I'm saying there? I think you do. If you follow this appropriately, I am pretty certain this works. So let's just follow the first line. Deviates off to the left. The second line goes straight north, under and under. Okay, so this one here deviates to the left. This line goes under and then through. And then this line right here splits here under, and then continues through, under, and continues through, and then this very last one, under, here, and then straight ahead. So I think we've got this. I think this will work. It's a good design. It's not ultra pretty, but it definitely gets the job done. At least I think it gets the job done. So we'll go with it. Why not? And it does seem infinitely replicable, because there's every case of extra interaction here. So I think we're a go. So I will likely start setting up a more permanent smelting array here very soon. Up my production, up my power production, and start really cranking some things out. And that'll be next time on Factorio. Thanks for watching.